June 2026. The Gulf of Oman is caught in a deadly military crossfire, transforming one of the world's busiest shipping lanes into a volatile combat zone. American F/A-18 fighter jets are launching precision munitions directly at commercial oil tankers attempting to navigate the strait. Aboard the targeted MT Setabello, the strikes turn fatal. 3 Indian seafarers, a deck cadet, an engine fitter, and a chief engineer are killed. New Delhi reacts immediately. India's Ministry of External Affairs summons the U.S. envoy, issuing a formal, furious démarche demanding an absolute halt to the strikes. The United States is actively firing on civilian vessels crewed by the citizens of a major democratic ally, an ally Washington desperately needs to counter China in the Indo-Pacific. To understand this crossfire, we have to look at the immediate military environment. Following a massive regional escalation, the U.S. instituted a strict naval blockade against Iranian ports in April 2026. The U.S. Central Command stated that the targeted vessels were allegedly violating this blockade, attempting to transport sanctioned Iranian oil. This blockade placed a massive civilian workforce directly in the line of fire. At the time of the strikes, more than 18,000 Indian seafarers were operating throughout the volatile Gulf region. New Delhi's fury marks the explosive climax of a relationship that had been secretly deteriorating for over a year. This naval crisis is the lethal terminal stage of a diplomatic infection that started thousands of miles away, beginning with a series of bitter trade disputes in the summer of 2025. Rewind to early 2025. 2 unyielding foreign policy doctrines collide. An uncompromising America First approach from Washington meets New Delhi's rigid dedication to strategic autonomy. The friction surfaces publicly in June. Following the G7 summit, Prime Minister Modi declines an invitation to dine with President Trump in Washington. Instead of the high-profile dinner, Modi cites pre-existing commitments, prioritizing a domestic visit to Odisha, the land of Mahaprabhu, over a stop in the U.S. capital. Shortly after, a second, deeply personal friction point emerges. President Trump publicly claims he mediated a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. India swiftly and publicly denies the claim, asserting there was no U.S. role in the military negotiations. As India continues purchasing Russian oil, the U.S. retaliates. In August 2025, Washington imposes a massive 50% tariff on Indian goods. The penalty derails Mission 500, an agreement to reach $500 billion in trade by 2030, throwing corporate supply chains into chaos. India refuses to capitulate. The dispute triggers an immediate diplomatic freeze. New Delhi reportedly pauses $3.6 billion in major U.S. defense procurements and delays confirming dates for an upcoming Quad summit. Using punitive tariffs to force compliance dismantled decades of bipartisan work. It turned strategic partners into economic adversaries before a single shot was fired in the Gulf. India has entirely refused to bow to either the 2025 economic tariffs or the 2026 military blockade. Inside the United States, the backlash is severe. American diplomats and political figures like Nikki Haley warn that alienating the only viable democratic counterbalance to China in Asia is a massive strategic disaster. To survive the tariffs, India initiates a proactive retaliation strategy. New Delhi actively diversifies its economy, insulating its export industries from U.S. coercion by seeking out new global markets. This network map shows the resulting geopolitical pivot. As the diplomatic link between the U.S. and India fractures, New Delhi accelerates its engagement with multipolar alliances, forging thicker connection lines with BRICS nations, Russia, and China. Meanwhile, the tragedy in the Strait of Hormuz remains unresolved. Thousands of Indian seafarers are still navigating a deadly geopolitical crossfire. When transactional, ego-driven demands replace mutual respect, the resulting alienation of vital allies redraws the global power map at a tragic, irreversible human cost.